What's going on, FPV enthusiasts? Hypnos FPV here again, and today I want to talk about something a little different here. With all these new goggles that I know everyone's hearing about and all that stuff, some of us are planning on just sitting back, watching what happens, let new revisions come out, new firmwares, all that stuff, and then we're just going to stick to the same old goggles we have right now. And for me, that is actually my HDO2s, and I love these goggles, I really do. And even though I love these, there's one thing that's really been bugging me. This is kind of the way I've been flying here. You know, I've got my battery hooked up, and this is kind of how I've been powering my goggles for a while now. Just, you know, plugging in a cord here for the main power and powering up the Fat Shark module with just a 2S battery here. And it's kind of annoying. It's bulky. Having a battery hang there is not really, you know, the most comfortable thing in the world, but I've been making do with it because, you know, I haven't been flying HDZero that much, but I'm actually in the process of converting my quads over to HDZero for the most part. And since I'm converting them over to HDZero, I really want to kind of make this a lot more comfortable for me and just more efficient. And the purpose of today's video is actually me planning on modding this here. Let me unplug this battery. So what I actually want to do here is kind of open this up, and I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to be doing some soldering and some modifications here to this cover. And what we're going to do is install this power switch, which basically is going to sit right about there. And when I want to power this up, I will just hit that button and it'll switch off my rapid fire here and power up that, and it should be a much more efficient and comfortable way for me to actually run and power these goggles. Now, this is not a mod that I've created by any means. There's been lots of other people that have done this mod here, and, you know, credit where credit is due. I've really started seeing posts about this on the Divimath HDZero Facebook page. So if you're not already on there, you can see, you know, people before me that have kind of come up with this. The reason why I actually went ahead and decided to make my own video is because, one, I want to do the mod, so I figured why not film it, and two, I have the equipment here to hopefully have a high quality video to where anyone who is wanting to do a mod like this that's getting into HDZero can have a good quality video to reference as a starting point for them to learn how to do this. With me saying that, I'm not actually saying that the videos I'm referencing are bad videos by any means. I do want to put out there that this mod does take some skill and some fine attention to detail to ensure that you don't mess it up and you don't want to screw up your goggles, because they're not cheap. So I have been a bit nervous about it, but I am going to do this. I have all the pieces ready to go. Let's hope that everything works out great, because I really want this mod to work. All right, guys, so here, the overhead view here, we are going to have to modify this cover here. We need it to basically fit our power switch so we can feed it through the center here and secure it. So what I'm actually going to do here is just kind of, you know, figure out where it's going to need to go. We want it to be able to fit snug in here as such. I want to ensure that the position that I pick is going to be fine, so that way when I'm inserting the whole mechanism back in there, I'm not going to hit the top or bottom or get stuck somewhere where I can't actually fit it in there, leaving me with a hole that I'm inevitably going to drill into this being completely useless and requiring me to have to replace this. That's what I want to avoid. So definitely taking your time and figuring out your measurements to start off is going to be very important. In the video that I watched, actually, theirs had a circle that was kind of like indented right in here, kind of like what we see over here. It was in the center, and they used that as their guideline, but for some reason mine does not have that. So unfortunately, if you end up having the same sort of issue that I have here, definitely take the time to measure. And we are actually going to have to, on top of that, drill another hole kind of similar to what we have here, but over on this side, because what we're going to be having is this power connector here. We're going to cut this shorter, obviously, but this is going to poke out through here. So when we have this plugged in here, this wire is going to come out over here on this side. So that way we can just plug it directly into the module. Just going to throw some double-sided tape on here and kind of place this where I think it should go. There we go. Yeah, just getting it to stick on there. And I'm going to test as best I can. It's definitely not the most ideal method for doing this, but so as we can see here, kind of hard to see, but down here we are getting some clearance. It's hard to really position it the way we want it to though. So yeah, I think here it's going to be a good spot. I might actually move it over just a tiny bit this way, but pretty much centered is what it's looking like, which I figured as much, but we want to make sure that we do this right, because once you cut the hole, you can't really go back. And kind of leave that tape on there as kind of our reference point. Before we take that off, we'll go ahead and marking myself. Just give ourselves a nice little starting point there. Okay, so for this here to fit in without it being too big, I believe we need to drill a 5/8 of an inch hole here, and that will equate to about 15.88 millimeters. So I'd round that up to 16, but I don't know if that would make it too big. So if you guys go off of that type of measurements, you might want to double check before you do that, but hopefully that gives you a nice little starting point to go for. I'm gonna have to find my drill here, and this is one of the parts that I've been really nervous about, because I don't want to screw this up. Obviously this is not a 5/8 inch drill bit, but what I plan on doing here is kind of drilling a couple small holes here and just kind of filing it out from there. So I'm actually going to, at this point, so we've got our pretty much center point here. I'm gonna kind of measure out the 5/8 of an inch and I'm gonna draw some lines to it to give me perfect guideline. And my method here for doing so is going to be this mat here, which starting here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to be 5/8. So that's going to be the size of our circle here. Now, if we look, this is going to be our center point. We're going to need another 0.5 millimeter. So more right there gives us perfect center mark. And this center mark is going to be, where the dot is. Our dot right here on this mark. So we want this mark to be right there. And there, right? So now we take a look here, and that actually feels just a tiniest bit too big, which is why we're doing this here. So eyeballing it, which, works here. We'll go take them in about there. How does that look? That might be too much, but I think that's where we want to go with it, because like I said, I'm going to be filing. All right, so we'll get up close here. We can see that this is where we're going to drill here. I'm going to do the measurement again for this direction, so that way I can get kind of a visual of the whole outline. And I'm going to try to do my best here to kind of give you guys the visual. So if I put that here, we have this lip here. You can see my fingernail kind of going over it here. We don't want the hole to be bigger than that because we want it to be able to like catch on it, right? So it'll catch on it, won't slide through and fall inside of the goggles, and then we'll use our thing here. We'll screw that on, and what that'll do is clamp this into place, so that way it'll be nice and snug in there. So when I hold this up to it, those marks that I made are visibly covering up the marks that I made on both sides, which is good. That's what we want. We don't want it to be bigger than that because then we'll run into issues later, as I said. So that's going to be good. And if for some reason the circle is a little too small to actually slide this into it, by me going to this measurement, I'll be able to, you know, file out carefully just to make it enough to be able to slide it in. So this is definitely the way I believe to be the best to go about it. So there we go, kind of outlining our circle, and I'll probably drill holes kind of. I will drill one directly in the center and then probably 4 others. Well, I just realized I wasn't recording for these first couple drills here, but we're getting started. I did 3 different ones. I'm gonna try and do another one here. All right, so to start off with the filing, I'm gonna use this thing here. Came with my Ethics FEV tool kit. So we can fit the wires through so far, but we need to definitely keep going because we need this whole thing to go through. And obviously this is upside down. It would actually feed in from the other side, but I just wanted to give a visual representation. In theory here, I'll just be able to thread this all the way in. Would you look at that? All right, so yeah, we have that placed in there now. That nice and snug. Get this secured in there. I would not use any tools to tighten this down. Just for any reason you have to get in there or whatever. I feel like hand tightening is probably the way to go. You just want to make sure that you get it snug enough to where it's not going to go anywhere, so your button can stay in place so it can do its job. We are going to have to do some modifications to the wiring and stuff here, but I wanted to do all the wiring while it was already in place. Over to the goggles. So got the goggles here. We have a screw here, and then we're also going to flip the goggles over here, and by the fan power button we have another screw that we are going to want to take out. So get in there, take this one out. This one here is a little bit tough to get to, but it is definitely doable. So you can kind of pull this apart here. What you're going to want to do just ever so slightly, because you got to pull. You're going to want to slide this whole thing out. And that little audio jack there is the tricky part. Just be gentle when separating it, so that way you don't go and break it. And then be very careful when pulling this out here, because we do have things plugged into it that we are going to need to remove. So carefully unplug. And then you got this small one right back here as well. Pop that out. Okay. Then we can set the goggles aside for the time being. And here we have a piece of the board that we need to work on. Okay, so taking a look here on, let's see, this is the front side that we That's all. But when we flip it over here, right here, these two big, here, let me point to it better here with this. So be our positive and our negative pads here, which is where the power input goes. So first thing I would suggest doing here is, since this is factory solder here, I would go ahead, add a little bit of flux and just add your own solder to it. So that's exactly what I'm going to go ahead and do right now. So we're just going to add a little flux. As we can see, just threw a little bit of extra solder on it. Nothing crazy. Now we want to take a look at the button itself here. And you can see here's our positive and our negative. The diagram here kind of shows, wiring process here that we want to follow. All right, guys, so now that the hard part is done, we can start the actual hard part. Now, it's kind of hard to see, but let's see if I can get in here. You can see right here is our positive, and negative is up here, this one. I'm left-handed, so I'm positioning it this way because it'll be easier for me to handle the soldering. But if you're right-handed, it might be a little bit easier for you to actually flip it around and have the positive on top. But the thing that we are going to do here is we are actually going to need to remove this wire because we don't need it. Now, you can buy buttons that don't have wires on them and you can just completely do it from scratch. This one, I happen to like the look of it. I really liked the black look to it instead of doing not a lot of people use a silver button. But so I decided to go with this, which already has wires on it, which is fine. It's going to take a little bit of finagling to get it to be exactly the way we need it to be. And to start with that, we are actually going to remove this wire here, this blue one, and then our positive here, we are actually going to jump to that pin here. So basically we are going to bridge these two and solder this red one over to that. And that is the first step that we are going to do here. And like I said, if you don't want to deal with having to remove the wires and stuff like that, there are ones that come without. And I actually do have a couple of them, so I can actually show you here. Go. So you can see here we got our positive, negative, and then the switches here. So what I'm doing right now, I have it positioned like this. I'm going to take the positive and then bridge it over here to this. So it's just the red wire connecting these two pins is what we are currently doing here. Tear our way through that. And it's not going to be terribly difficult here as soon as I can get this to focus. Let's see, just a tiny little solder joint there, nothing crazy. Locks it up like such. Rope 10. Just pop that right off there. And while I have this up, I will just go ahead and plop a tiny bit of fresh solder on there. We can go ahead and prep our red wire now. So we're going to have to cut this down to size because we don't need much. Basically, going to cut it right here. Let's make a little indent. We've got that red wire shortened. Going to generously apply some flux here so we can tin this wire. Let's go ahead and add some more flux to this as well as the pin. So now we can go ahead and bridge this connection. Line up as best as we can. And there we have it. So just to clarify here, we've got our positive here. All right, so they are set in the same orientation here. Kind of hard to see, but you can see the positive sign right there. And we took the positive lead and bridged it with this right over here. Now, if we go back to earlier, remember we pinned these right here, be our negative and our positive. So we are going to take our negative here and connect it to that. And we don't need it to be as long as it is right now, so we can trim the wires down, but be mindful, you don't want to trim it too much. So I'm thinking about here. Do the trick. For the observation, the wires on this are not the best. For anyone else who might be thinking that they want to use this one as well. There we go. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so as usual, we're going to go ahead and make sure these are fluxed up ahead of time. All right, FPV enthusiasts, I do have a little bit of bad news here at this point in the video. So taking a look at my video files here, we can see I have my clips that I have edited up to this point, and I just realized, you can see here, this clip was over 17 gigs. Then this next one here is 0 bytes, 0, 0, 0, 0. So unfortunately, I am missing a lot of the process here. So what I'm actually going to do here is I have this older pair of goggles here. With these old goggles, I'm planning on just taking out the board in here, and then I'm going to try and give you guys a visual representation of what I soldered and how I did everything, using this as kind of a visual guideline. I really hate that these files got corrupted. It has definitely made this editing process come to a screeching halt. I wish I would have realized it much sooner, but even still, I would have already completed the mod before realizing that the video files were corrupted. But I am definitely making a point to complete this video and get this out there. But aside from that inconvenience, I am happy to say that the mod is completed and it works amazingly, and I absolutely love it. All right, guys, so I got the board out of the other one. Luckily, it is basically the exact same board, which is quite nice. It should be pretty easy to kind of use this as our reference point. So this button I was using to kind of show examples earlier, I'm going to use to kind of help walk us through this. So hopefully it is useful. So what I had done up to this point here is bridged these two with the positive. All right, so we have those two jumped there. We've got our negative right here. And then we had this blue wire coming off right here. We have our two pins that we had got ready, our negative and our positive, right? All right, so we want to solder the black wire, the negative, to this one right here, and then the blue wire to the top one right here. So we'll have our positive and negative connected directly to that. Next thing here is the connector here, so we can go from the button to the Fat Shark module. And what we will have to do here is actually really easy. The hard part is done, which is this mess that I'm trying to visualize here. And what we want to do here is solder the red wire here to where the positive is. So you don't want to do the one here that doesn't have the plus. You want to do the one that has the plus. And so both of these will be connected right there. And then you will come over here to the same and put the black wire here to the negative with the other black wire. And that is pretty much exactly how it's going to be. Now I know this is a jumbled mess here, but hopefully this helps paint the picture. So we have this blue wire and this black wire soldered, black and blue. Good. Those two are bridged. We come in with our connector here and we solder the red wire to where the positive symbol is, and the black wire over here where the negative symbol is. So there'll be 2 wires connected to those pins. And that is exactly how we want to have this set up. Now, if we go back over to the goggles that I already finished, you can see that I did also drill another hole. So I unsheathed this a little bit more. So all I did was feed these 2 wires through. This connector is a little bigger than this one. That's why it looks gigantic. I did just take a little rubber gummy here and glued it to the outside just aesthetic reasons, to be honest. Like, you don't have to do it, but I just liked the look. So once you have it done, you just fit the whole thing in there. You get it all clipped in, and then you can plug that directly in, and this gives you your finished look. And now that we have this complete, we can go right ahead and plug a battery in, and then power up. Now, that sound we heard is my rapid fire module booting up, which is awesome. It's exactly what we want. Now, if we come over here, I'm just going to press this button here. As you can see, this has like a little bit of a blue LED light. And then if I rotate back over here, we can see that the rapid fire has turned off, and kind of hard to tell, but the fan in the Fat Shark module is spinning. And if I press the power button yet again, it turns off, and then there you can see the fan spin down. When I turn it off, you'll hear the beep for the rapid fire switching right back on. So this mod basically is just a way to turn on and off your HDZero with only having 1 battery plugged in, and it is amazing. All right, FPV enthusiasts, I'm going to wrap up this video nice and quick. I don't want to keep you guys too long. This has already been an extremely long video with all of its ups and downs. I'm really glad that I got this mod done, and I'm really glad that I got this video put together. I hope that you guys find some use out of this, and if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. And feel free to hit those comments and let me know what you think of this mod. Have you seen any other renditions of it? Would you do something different than I did here? Let me know. I would love to hear down in the comments. And that's all I've got, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.